Hello,
We can.
hello. Good to be here.
One thing I'm going to plug real quick as well for anyone who is interested. There is a .NET user group meeting covering .NET Aspire. I know I've kind of teased my Velopack library a couple times. The back end of it is all built with .NET Aspire. I have absolutely fallen in love with it. Anybody going to the build conference? I don't have the build conference up. Why do I not have build conference links up? Build conference. There will be, yeah, this thing. So if you haven't signed up, one, you should sign up at a minimum because it's free and there's a lot of good sessions out there. You will find plenty of .NET Aspire sessions. It is still preview and not GA. I believe it's expected to be GA sometime early this year. We're in April. That probably means soon. So, but if you are at all interested in learning about it, Joshua has a great user group coming up, and it will be awesome. Feel free to check it out. Izzy, thank you. When did I start the stream? About 3 minutes late, so 2 minutes ago, or give or take. We were having some technical difficulties in getting sound checks done, so it started a little later. The unfortunate part is it's hard for me to sound check once I hit the start streaming button, so I have to kind of do it offline. Alarm set 20 minutes early and you're already on. I know. I typically aim to start 5 minutes before now. So whatever time it is where you're at, back it up about 5 minutes. That's my usual start time, give or take. Okay, one more thing to plug. The Essential C# website, Benjamin, is largely responsible for at least this feature, and a good chunk of the stuff that you see here. But if you haven't seen it, so the Essential C# .com website is the Essential C# book in online form, and we have gone through the entire book. We have extracted out all of the coding guidelines bits and have dumped them into one consumable page. This is oftentimes in code reviews, things that I'm looking for. There are some things here that are more important than others. Usually what I tell people is I would like every team to have some sort of guidelines that they follow and stick to them. Even if you decide, hey, I don't like some of the guidelines, that's fine. Just pick something consistent. The only thing I hate seeing is inconsistency. So please be consistent. And if you're curious what you should or shouldn't do, there's a lot of good things here. The one thing that's missing from these guidelines that I've often considered going through and doing is putting out like the rationale and the reasoning behind them, because that information is not really covered here. So
New feature. We should have these hyperlink into the place in the book where they're featured.
that
Feature
would be
coming
good,
soon.
but even then the book sometimes doesn't cover all of the discussion that went into the guidelines, because a lot of these guidelines came out of long, we'll call them discussions because argument sounds wrong, but there have been a lot of back and forth, and unfortunately you just can't capture it. But some of these, on like my C# calamities, I basically take these guidelines and go as far the other direction as I can go, and demonstrate why these guidelines are good, because here's how badly you can abuse it if somebody like me decides to have some fun. Debates. Yeah, debates might be better. Mark, who is the author of the Essential C# book series, and I go back and forth on a lot of this stuff because it is difficult to come up with good guidelines, because the running joke is, as a systems architect, the answer is always, it depends. And that doesn't fit real well in a guide. I mean, always it depends. Like, that doesn't really work well for guidelines when people are like, we need some guidance. So a lot of these are trying to figure out and distill down simple things to make it work. And to some degree, some of these things are automatic, like do apply assembly version attributes to assemblies with public types. If you're using the new project SDK format, which has existed since like Core 1.0, I think, you're getting this for free, i.e. set a version on your assembly. So some of these things kind of just kind of shake out all by themselves. Okay, now for Twitter debates.
As you're talking, you're just giving me so many feature ideas.
I know.
Filtering on the versions that these best apply to, additional links other than just book.
Yeah, and
I hear
that's
it's open source. Anyone should contribute.
it is. So I will say this.
Well,
Yeah,
somewhat open source.
yeah. Grab a link to the repo, Benjamin. So I will point this out. Due to publisher restrictions, the content of the book is not available inside of the repository. However, the code for the website is in fact open source. So if and I believe if you don't have access to the private NuGet feed where we feed in the content, you get kind of some placeholder pages. So
Yeah, you just have to
technically the
clip a
web,
value in the CS proj file, and it should load up some really
yeah,
bad placeholder files. But if anyone actually wants to contribute, I'll give you better placeholder files.
yeah, and I think it's actually covered in the README of startup steps of what you need to do to be able to go through and do this, because people who work for Intelitech can get access to this private NuGet feed. Outside contributors probably not, because due to publisher restrictions, allowed to we aren't allowed to just make the content easily downloadable, but we can put it up on a website. Do with that information what you will. Um, and go from there. So there's a handful of things that are all around kind of meeting publisher requirements and that kind of stuff. But if you're interested, also feedback. If you do find mistakes, issues, whatever, please click this feedback button. It takes you to an issue page or I guess a discussions page, and we are actively making changes. So at some point we've talked about doing a talk about the pipeline and all of the work that goes into actually making this website happen, because there is a shocking amount of infrastructure behind this. A shocking amount. It starts from Word documents and somehow we end up here. And there's a lot of stuff in the middle. And yeah, it gets real interesting real fast.
You make it sound so simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just Word document to web page. How hard could that be? I mean, Word has an export to HTML. Why don't we just do that?
And then we start counting the repositories involved.
Yeah, we've only got like 8 repositories in this whole thing. It's not that bad.
Reorgs, 8 repositories, something like that.
Something. Okay, so system command line. I'm actually going to jump here first. So for people who, I'm going to jump here. So this is a library, in case people haven't seen it. This is one that people have often raised the question of, hey, is this library dead? Word is just HTML inside a zip file. Yeah, believe me, we are intimately familiar with the OpenXML format. Unfortunately, way too familiar with it. But System Command Line is a library that was started by some people internal to Microsoft way back when .NET was going open source. And the idea was the .NET SDK needed to have something to process command line inputs. And they looked around at the ecosystem, and there were, I think, like 3 good ones at the time. There was like Mono Options, there's the one from Nate McMaster, and I think there was like one other one that was like mostly reasonable to look at, which is, or Spectre was probably alive then at that point. And they looked at all of them and decided none of them support all of the features we want. And so Microsoft then built their own command line parsing library to support the .NET SDK. Fast forward, open source, all the things, right? The command line library went open source, and we started working on it because the goal was to have something that wasn't just for the Microsoft SDK, right? There was a bunch of teams in Microsoft that also needed command line parsing stuff, because shockingly, Microsoft builds a lot of tools. Who would have thought? And some of them are built in .NET, and they needed a good library to do it. This library comes with a lot of stuff in it right now, right? There's the base library. There's a thing called Dragon Fruit, which is strongly typed main methods. So rather than just string args, instead of string args, you just do like file info, bool, int, and poof, magically you get a command line for it.
Wonderful stuff.
It is amazing. There's technically a hosting library. We're not going to talk about that, probably because it's not going to live very long. And then there's like the .NET Suggest. So I'll just kind of briefly mention .NET Suggest is all about when you're on your terminal, being able to hit tab and have autocomplete work in an intelligent way, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into making that work. You can also turn on the autocompletes for the .NET CLI if you want, which is pretty cool. And it's all powered by this .NET Suggest thing. So even though this library has been sitting in beta for a very, very long time, it's powering the .NET SDK. So it's, when people say, is it dead? Microsoft isn't killing it. They're using it in their .NET SDK, which I think we can all agree is not going anywhere anytime soon. So there is that. But some of these extra libraries like Dragonfruit and hosting, these are kind of extra things that have been tacked on. Now, let's jump over to Twitter. So Daniel, and I'm not going to say his last name because I'm going to butcher it if I try. Some people may recognize him as the author of the MOQ library. But he did this tweet pointing out, hey, the last NuGet release was like 2 years ago. There's like 500 logged issues, 3 open PRs, doesn't look great, right? There was that. And I saw this and I'm like, oh. And I bit my tongue because I know better than to engage on Twitter because that is just a recipe for disaster. And then somebody else I follow, Aaron, commented, and he made this interesting comment linking in Patrick, Benjamin, help me, Stevenson? I'm probably butchering his name.
Svensson?
Short version. Patrick's awesome. He's the author of Spectre Console.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Cake.
And yeah, quite a few open source libraries. You've probably come across him or his libraries at some point in time. Awesome guy. He's great. And you'll note Aaron kind of jokingly pointed out that, hey, Spectre Console is killing off Microsoft libraries. And then, clearly this is a little tongue-in-cheek of, it's not true, but let me have this, right? And I bit my tongue. And then Howard dropped in, which I love Howard. Howard's great. And I'll reference how I know these people here in a moment. But, he threw in and pointed out, hey, System.CommandLine's not dead. There's a huge amount of feedback from community internal stakeholders, and work is ongoing to incorporate it. And Kathleen Dollard is the Microsoft PM who has largely been the one behind keep pushing it forward, right? There's been a number of engineers, specifically John Sequoia has been the principal engineer on this project since the beginning. But Kathleen has been the PM that's been kind of pushing to try to get this thing GA, which is remarkably difficult, shockingly. And then Howard also points out that, hey, guess what? Patrick, Kathleen, John, me, and then occasionally Adam have been meeting every several weeks to try to keep this project moving forward. And for people who don't know Adam, he's one of the primary guys on benchmark.net. So yeah, so short version, Adam knows a thing or two about performance, like a scary amount about performance. Let's fast forward. Oh, did I not leave mine in? Oh, I came down here because I couldn't resist, because I was about to comment and link, because there is a pinned item out on the System.CommandLine library called Resetting System.CommandLine, right? And we'll jump to that and look at it in a minute. And I couldn't help but throwing in going, hey, yes, this is the issue people need to look at if they're questioning if the library is dead. There's active work being done on it. The number of issues and PRs is an artifact of how much work is going in, not how dead it is. The lack of NuGet publishing is kind of a little bit of internal politics and pipelines and all of that stuff, because unfortunately to publish, you have to meet a fairly decent quality bar, and well, we'll see why that quality bar is a little hard to hit at the moment. And I comment about this Powderhouse branch, but let's jump forward, right? So Howard, okay, so here's the resetting system command line. So anybody who wants to read along, there's the key issue. This thing's pinned on the repository, so if you go to the top and look at the pinned issues. But a couple things that I want to point out, right? So Kathleen's comment here, going forward, core parser, which we plan to locate in the .NET libraries. Translation, BCL, meaning you don't need a NuGet for this thing anymore. When you install the .NET SDK, it lands with the .NET libraries. Now, it's intentionally not saying BCL and saying .NET libraries here because there is some debate on exactly where and how that lands. But short version, don't need NuGet, goes along with the .NET libraries. That's huge. And more importantly, it means lifetime ownership, right? It'll have lifetimes equal to your .NET. which means definitely not dead. But it's important to note here, it's also a core parser. This is not the whole of System Command Line, because System Command Line has a wealth of features. This is just a parser. Just the thing that takes your string args and converts it into useful stuff. That's it. Right? And then a extensible subsystem to bring in all the extra stuff. Right? The invocation model, help, parsing, directives, yada, 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 yada. Right? This is a history of stuff. And I will point out, and this is the one thing that I laugh when people say Spectre console is going to kill off this library. Patrick's actively helping on this library. I don't like this ecosystem for command line parsing is a lot less competitive than people seem to think it is. And even Nate McMaster in the early days helped out on this library. Like, there's not a lot of competition. I think everybody who's worked on this library agrees .NET needs a really good command line parser. We don't have a great one. It'd be cool if we had one. And Patrick even has acknowledged that, you know, some of the stuff that Spectre console is doing in terms of parsing could be improved. And so he actively wants this library to succeed so Spectre can leverage it. So it's not like Spectre and this one are competing. They're complementary. So yeah, that's fun. Weird.
And it's hard to like remember how difficult parsing is. I think that's something when I first like processed this, looked at this project, I'm like,
yes,
hey, I can build a little command line app. Like, what's so hard? I take in some input, I run through my if conditions, I'm done. Like a little more advanced. And doing parsing correctly is so complicated. So having one core place where it's quote unquote correct and everyone can just leverage that correct thing is so much better than 50 iterations of each one has their partially correct version. Turns out there's a correct version of parsing. That's a whole debate of itself, but
yeah. Well, and even some of the what is correct gets hard for people who haven't heard the word POSIX before. Like, there's standards written about this, and to some degree, there's then competing standards because then PowerShell decided to do its own thing and convolute the waters. But like, it is hard to get right. So if you're building a command line app and you're parsing your string args, stop, back up. Please go download one of these libraries: System Command Line, Spectre Console, Nate McMaster's, or you just write batch files. That is an option, Izzy. I mean, if you like the late 90s tech, I mean, go for it. Because I think that may be the last time batch files got an update. I mean, it depends on how we define update, but at least in terms of like syntax and parsing, I think late 90s was the last time a batch file received any significant stuff. So all of this stuff here, and finally the last bit. So this big refactor, and part of why there hasn't been a NuGet release is because the NuGet releases come off of main. The problem is before you saw how everything was kind of in the one main library. The problem is the bits that they want to put down with the .NET libraries are just the parser. So that System Command Line library is being broken apart so that the parser can be in a library and the other stuff can be somewhere else. The problem is there was kind of some internals touching other internals, and things weren't like easily loosely coupled in some cases. And in a lot of cases, it was done because of performance, because Adam went through and optimized this library, because System Command Line is one of the few CLI libraries that doesn't leverage reflection, is trim safe, and AOT compatible. Right? Those are some features that are fairly new to .NET that a lot of libraries haven't ingested yet. System Command Line did. As one of the company procedures, I'm trying to change all projects require a build.bat. And that's actually not bad. Like, I've seen similar things. Oh, sorry, you made me realize it. So now I'm gonna comment on it real quick, Izzy, because there is an outstanding PR for the material design library that references this recommended, like David Fowler put out this thing of, hey, here's how you should structure a brand new repository. And again, this is project structure, I think, is opinion based, but this is at least a good opinion, right? There are lots of opinions that can work. This one is one that does work. And for the most part, I don't mind this. There's a handful of things in here I would change on some of my libraries that I don't stick to, but this is if you're struggling and going, I don't know what to do. Well, here's at least a good defensible option. And for people following the material design library, we're about to blow up the repo and switch to this as well, or switch to something somewhat close to this, right? Like it's not all going to be here, but it's going to be in this vein. And there's going to be renames, and don't look at the PR because there's like 1,100 files changed in it, and it's scary. So, but that's the reason for Powderhouse blowing up. And if people are interested in following along, like this is one of those libraries that it's cool to work on because the work you do on it ends up inside of .NET. Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It's fun when I download the .NET SDK and I find a bug and go, ah, crap, I think I know who wrote that. It was probably me. That's not a great feeling. Yeah, the VS support for that layout. Yeah, like I said, Izzy, it's one of those. It's not a perfect one, but it's at least a good one. I'll say that. Because David Fowler knows a thing or two about repositories. He knows a little bit. He's done a couple decently sized projects. Just a few. Speaking of .NET Aspire. Anyway, so if people are interested in contributing, one of the big ways to help out is there is a substantial number of issues being logged with this Powderhouse label. And some of these are just design questions. The problem is some of these are literally, and of course, the first one I click on actually has it. Yeah. Some of these, Kathleen is logged with literally just a title. So to some degree, some of these are, we'll say, lacking the necessary details. But Kathleen had asked if I would dive into a bit of an explanation. So here is an issue here, right? And this one I think is fairly easy to understand. Is we have a command, right? And the command has an option, and the option is named -x, and the option is an int array, and there's an arity on it. And for people who don't know the word arity, it just means number of items or number of thingies, right? You've heard that term, right, Benjamin? Think so?
I have. I also have a little bit of a cheat of these meetings.
Oh, that's true. Most people, I think, first hear about arity when talking about generics, because if you've got like T1, T2, that's a generic with an arity of 2, right?
A tuple. A tuple is a great example of.
Tuple, thank you. That's a wonderful example. Where your arity is the number of elements. So in this case, this is saying, hey, I expect my arity to be between 2 and 3. And then this is where we get into some fun parsing, because we say, I want to parse this command line using this command, and I'm going to pass -x 1, 2, 3, 4. And now obviously this is an error because this is 4 values, and we said we expect between 2 and 3. Right? And there's an issue with showing up the number of arguments. Now, I did some looking into it, and I made a comment about some of the tests, but I pointed out that, hey, if you switch it to repeating the -x every time, this actually goes through and works. And then Algonzo pointed out there's also the allow multiple arguments per token, which also kind of gets you a little closer. The one thing it doesn't fully explain, and what we're going to dive into, is when I switch to this, we get 2 errors. 2 errors with identical text. This is bad. So, task 1, figure out what the heck is going on. You'll also note the unit test names are long and verbose. You can thank John Sequoia for that. I will say, the other wonderful thing about this library, why are you not letting me navigate to type?
I'm on the project and things seem unloaded maybe?
I mean, some of the things are unloaded, but the important stuff is loaded.
I'm not able to search either. Oh, nope.
Why is go to type not working? Why is Control F not working? Do I have it's acting like there's a dialogue open. Sorry,
I can't Control F either.
Yeah, I'm killing Visual Studio real quick. We're gonna just relaunch Visual Studio. Something no worky. I don't know why. Hold on. Hey, there we go. Now we can navigate. Some
Oh,
days,
jeez.
Visual Studio. Here, I will get you a live share link, Benjamin. In case you wanna. I'm gonna just blame live share and assume that it was the problem. And one live share link for you. Okay, so here's our test. Step 1, run test. And you'll know the only reason I have all the other projects unloaded is 1, they don't matter. And 2, because I just switched off of the Powderhouse branch where these projects are pretty much broken. Live scare.
Let's just
Yeah.
say it was a 3 hour, no, not even 3 hour. It's an hour and a half of commenting out about every test in the whole entire project as we ripped it apart in
Yeah.
quick fashion. It's a
Latest.
lot of fun. You don't often get to take a sledgehammer to a whole house. It's usually just like a wall in the bathroom, and this was a sledgehammer to the whole house. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. We're gonna open Test Explorer, and I think did it actually run my test? I don't think it did. Run test, darn it. Let's see. Latest previews at work again. Bits at work again. Yes, very likely. My preview Visual Studio it ebbs and flows between working great with cool new features and me wanting to uninstall it and questioning why I'm on the preview builds. I think that's normal. Yeah. In early stages.
Copilot's getting better though. I have been impressed. It is getting better. The chat feature I am actually using on a daily basis now.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Also, I'm wondering if what broke it was I just Control F again, and it's sitting here finding forever. So I'm wondering if when I Control F
If you're
via live
break,
share, if I break your Control F. If that's the case, I won't do it anymore.
yeah, stop Control Fing. Okay, so hang on, tests. Oh, look at this. So the reason the tests aren't running is because the test platform could not find test host. What the heck?
I don't see why that would be a problem at all.
I
Who
mean,
needs test host?
uh, the problem is you can see I was clearly running tests before. Like, see, I have past test results.
Oh, rebuild fixed. It worked.
I mean, well, hold on, rebuild worked, but
And
test run aborted.
wait, in your errors?
Yeah, yeah, there's errors that couldn't find test host. Oh, Visual Studio, you're gonna make me want to strangle you, aren't you? Okay, so let me figure out what the heck. I'm gonna downgrade this sucker. I'm wondering if it's my Net 7 build. I might. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're just gonna downgrade off of Net 7. I was uninstalling Net 7 SDKs, and I'm willing to bet I've got like maybe a missing Net 7 SDK or similar. Clearly, I've got the targeting assemblies because I can compile. So, there's that.
I do remember some Net 7 SDKs having bugs because I remember them biting me and me having to pin versions. I don't
Yeah.
remember which ones they were. I just remember that was a thing.
Well, and I was uninstalling some, and I have to believe I probably botched it well because I realized I had way too many of them. Okay, so step 1 here, right? We're gonna break this apart. So one thing I wanted to mention, I was chatting with. Okay, Copilot. This is just dumb. Like, freaking show off. Freaking show off, Copilot. Like, how does it know? How does it, like, it had to look at what I was doing on the other branch on the change that I didn't commit, that I ended up discarding and going, I got you. Clearly, what you want to do is the same thing you just did on that other branch, only here.
Oh, it's not Copilot. I'm just sitting over here typing.
Uh-huh. Okay. So the thing that I wanted to separate though is I wanted to get the var parse result, right? And so I wanted to actually, okay, Copilot, impress me. Thank you. Bloody show off. Bloody show off.
You know, reference the same variable.
He is watching you. No, I don't want to reference the same variable. I'm just going to throw it away. I only want this for debugging purposes. Okay. So you can see here, so this is a parse result object, and the convenient part is it, oh, I missed it. Oh, I missed it again. Okay, I give up. What I heard is go down to your locals, Kevin, and stop being a moron. Okay, so we get this nice diagrammed result, right? So it found the command, and then it figured out, oh, okay, this is what you have. Now, the problem being is that the parse result also has some errors now, right? So this is what we want to track down. The fact that option X expects a single argument before we're provided. We expect this error. This is a good error. The question is, why are we getting this error twice? So that's what we want to track down. Now, we could go digging through all of the stuff, but I'm kind of wondering if we can I'm kind of wondering if we can just hunt it from the error message and work our way backwards, is kind of my thinking. Because we've got these localization resources, right? Expects one argument, find all references. Like, I'm willing to bet we can kind of walk our way backwards. Argument arity. Yeah, so I think we're going to be in this vicinity. Right? And one, it's kind of a bad error message to begin with, because the idea that X expects a single argument, no, it doesn't. It expects 2 to 3 arguments. So, like, the error message is bad to begin with. Or at least incomplete. It probably needs to be better. We can do better than this. Okay, so we're going to just back ourselves up. Step. Oh, look, right at my other breakpoint. That was easy. Okay, so what did we get here? So we have option result. And then where are the errors? Does this thing have errors yet? So the option result already has an error on it. It's interesting because this exceeds maximum number of values. Okay, also, I'm sorry. I've got this thing set in hex view. We'll turn it off. We'll go back to English numbers. So this thing's going to create an error with the same thing. I'm still a little shocked. And then where is this error going to go? Argument conversion result. Okay, so let's step it. Let's just follow this thing through. So it makes the error. Right? This error is the bad one. Still not sure how we got the first one in there. We return false, but where do we go? Oh, so here, next thing. Pro tip, use bookmarks. So there's these little things up here. One, I'm just going to clear them all. And then Control KK. Like, I know a lot of people end up using breakpoints for these things, but bookmarks are awesome. The other thing you can do, my bookmarks window. Bookmark window, that thing. You can come through and give them names. When already seated. See, you can name these suckers. Wonderful, wonderful feature. Okay. So we go in here, and it's going to take that same option result, the one that already has an error in it, and it's going to add a second one. Okay, so do this. Go back to my bookmarks window. Second error added. Also, shout out to Joshua, because he's the one who showed me how to rename bookmarks, and it is one of my new favorite features. Okay, so that's where our second error comes from. And so that goes through there. Okay, so we're going to kill execution for the moment. Okay, so that's where error number 2 gets added. I still want to figure out where error number 3 comes from. The other thing that's worth noting is this syntax, I believe, is expected to work if we just do this. So we're probably going to end up just writing a bunch of tests here to cover the various cases. Because my comment on the issue above was that we've got this test up here, and this appears to be the success case, right? Because minimum 3. I'm looking at you, Benjamin. Output 5. Your
Yep.
job is to keep me honest, right? There's 3, there's 5. It's a little awkward that this test is testing both things because the test and system command line really, really, really strive to test exactly one thing at a time. So it's a little.
Did we decide that both having multiple arguments to a single option and chain them were both valid things that we want to support?
So I think,
at least in your false case, because you have both. One in your commented out case, you have both of them.
yeah, I think both this syntax and this syntax would be expected to work if the Baxarity were 4.
Great.
Either one should work.
I'll start spinning up a second test if that's useful.
Yeah, if you wanna do that, that would be wonderful. I'd love to figure out where the yeah, it'll be interesting to figure out how we name these things separate. Yeah.
I'm starting with that. I'm gonna go look at the issues to figure out what we can decide to call these things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember the right term. It's not necessarily POSIX bundling. But I don't know the right terminology. If anyone in chat knows the right terminology for this versus this, or even just has a reasonable name that would put here to make sense, that would work too. Okay, so, but I do want to back up and find where the heck that first error got added from, because somewhere, I'm going to put a breakpoint here, somewhere that thing is going. Hopefully you're not set to follow me, Benjamin, because we're debugging again.
Not anymore. Also, live view sometimes struggles. You jump to it when you F12'd into a file. It's like, I don't know where that file is, and then I control T'd into the file. I'm like, it's right there. So it's not great.
Yeah, live share is one of those features that sounds really good in theory. Wait. Hang on, I'm confused. So we came in here a second time. That's interesting, because this is where
the
my
errors possibly equivalent.
Well, I'm more interested in how I got here a second time, because here's time 1, right? And I'm going to hit F5, and I'm willing to bet I hit one more stop on the localization error before I hit my other breakpoint. No.
I'm not following you, but it's definitely following the debug.
So we only invoked expect one argument once. So we only retrieved the localization once, which makes me strongly suspect that the error object is just added in twice. Working theory. It's not that we're calling it twice. It's that something is adding the error twice. So next trick, make object ID. Oh, they're different instances? Whoa, okay, they're different error instances. They've got different object IDs. So somehow we've created, okay, let's just go to the parse error constructor. What? I'm very confused. How did we come in? We have to come in here twice. We have to come in here twice. And I want you to know, for anybody who cares, I am resisting the urge to like file scope namespace all the things, which is my default setting. If anybody is wondering why there is a second pinned issue on the system command line repository calling out the very specific Git guidelines that we're following, because as part of this Powderhouse refactor, we are making an what I will call an extreme effort to make sure that we don't accidentally scratch history, so that everybody who's contributed to the library thus far, all of their contributions remain recognized. Because sometimes you get those big refactors and then one person's name just gets assigned to the whole repository, and they're just the person who happened to do the commit on the refactor. As part of this Powderhouse, we are doing some Git gymnastics to make that not the case.
It's my favorite.
Emphasis on gymnastics. Okay, we have to hit this parse error twice. Okay, so there's this. We hit the localization call once. Okay, so here is the first case we come in. Right? This is our first error. So let's back up. So there's add error. That's not a big result. Okay, so this is the bookmark that I created that says for the second one's being added. But this is the first error instance that's instantiated. And I have to believe something just must add this a second time.
It's interesting that that test is commented into there.
Well, hold up. Hang on. Now I just hit this breakpoint a second time.
What's the call stack from this point? I would debug this, but my call stack doesn't work.
So here it's my other bookmark. Argument conversion result error. And then we're about to fall into here a second time.
There's something one level higher up that's calling this twice.
Well, or is it?
Line 74.
Parse operations validate. So hold on. Argument arity validate. This option result should already have the one error inside of it. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It does. Okay. And it's about to then get a second one. I'm going to put a breakpoint here. By F5 here. It's interesting because this here, oh, this is a argument conversion result. Hold on, how do we get here? Argument conversion result comes in here.
And that's your other bookmark.
Yeah, so it's the same. Okay, you're right. I think it's the code paths. But here's our second call to parse error. So we are coming in there twice. Okay. Yeah. Shut up. I get it. Shut up. I'm the developer. Go away. No one likes you, Copilot. You're not helping.
That's not the one that you wanted, I think.
Yeah, it's just bothering me that I have parser test CS and parser test CS. One of which is a miscellaneous file, and one of which is the real one. Visual Studio, you've lost your mind again. Okay, so I think
at least it works.
I think
it didn't work a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think we go back, and the key thing here is we are. Where's my bookmarks window? There.
That's an interesting naming convention.
Where?
At the top of that file. Was that a Pascal case field? I think it's out of this file.
Is it this one?
Nope. Just control minus. Twice now. Symbol result tree. Isn't that a field?
Symbol result tree. Looking for symbol result.
That's just F12.
Oh, this thing here. Oh, you're right. It is a field named like a property. Yep. I'm curious if it's because it was labeled as internal. This may have been a property at one point that got converted to a field.
I'll fix it.
No. This is on main. We don't want to cause extra conflicts. You can Powderhouse fix it though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can go branch on Powderhouse and PR that in. That's fine.
Great.
Double check though other instances of internal fields. They may have actually their naming convention may be to name like this for internal and public fields.
Do we have that written down somewhere?
It would be the editor config. So if you make the change and the editor config doesn't scream, you're fine.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we want to let's do this one more time, and I think the key here is going to be the call stack between those two cases, because we don't want to get the second error in there. Okay, so here is validate argument or validate options. Why are you?
I have no idea what if I have an extension installed, but I have 4 Visual Studio instances open. They all have a different color assigned to the border, which makes it really easy to know what's project I'm currently in. It's kind of cool.
It is cool.
It's like this System from Line has gray up top, and then your whole border is that. One of mine is purple, and one is pink, and one is green.
Mine
So now I
doesn't.
know whether I'm yours or someone else's.
Yeah. There's a comment in chat for read-only non-private fields. That's a valid naming convention, sort of like public read-only static fields. Yeah, like I said, double check the other one, because the weird part is generally you don't do a public field, but like read-only. Once you make it read-only, as long as it's not a mutable object, it's probably okay, because it's kind of like static read-only GUIDs. Like occasionally people expose those things, and the only reason they aren't a const is because a GUID can't be a const. Okay, so the question is are we coming in to validate
Oh, it's an
arguments?
extension. I just found it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send me that extension, because that sounds like something I need. I often have many Visual Studio instances open. Okay, so short version, we came in to validate options from validate, which lives up on command result, which makes sense, which came from the parse option validate, which makes sense, which came from our parse call, which is, I'm just going to quickly click through this, is ultimately exactly what we called here, right? So we called parse. There's some overloads. Inside of the parse method, there's a validate call. And inside of validate, we call validate, and then we call validate options. And so somehow in here, I don't think we're calling into this. I'm going to be curious if we hit this breakpoint a second time. There is a loop here. But there's a loop on options, and it has a count of 1. So that's probably not. Like, I'm wondering if I actually hit this breakpoint a second time. Because my option result here, I'm willing to bet this is one of the cases where, like, the result class is being handed off. See, here's the part that bothers me. Somehow, option result already has a value in its errors. Where did that come from? Right? Like, how did, huh? Because option result didn't exist. Okay, we're going to back it up and catch it, like, right here. Because option result doesn't exist until right there. Right? Like, that is, like, huh? I'm curious how that first one seems to sneak in without
Unless
hitting
it's
my other
getting in a
breakpoint.
1 or 2.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe my debugger's making this hard. Like, I'm wondering if there's something that's like a debugger display that when I inspect is causing something to happen, which is a possibility. Like that. Okay, so option result is null. Okay, we agree option result is null. Option result gets symbol result. Does symbol result have any errors in it? Yes. Okay, so before we get too carried away, symbol result already has errors. Symbol result came from the symbol result tree. We're going to back up and we're going to just keep following this, because somehow we got into that symbol result without hitting the localization. Like, this is what's bothering me. I've got a breakpoint on this. Hold on. I wonder if there's a second one of these. No more occurrences. That's the only occurrence in the document. Okay, so in theory, this is the only localization call.
Here, 53. Is that it? Command line result on 53. Command result, excuse me.
Top
right tab.
Oh, yeah. Follow. Not following. Okay.
Wait,
Sorry.
that didn't bring you quite there. 53.
53. Well, that's a different. The problem is that's a different error message. But I agree with you. So,
That's what then calls validate options, which is the one at what point it has. I can't debug, so I'm also kind of doing this
just freehand. No, that makes sense. So hold on. Where are you seeing where insert first error calls validate options?
Nope. Scroll down later on in line 74. It calls validate options.
Correct, and that is our call stack, right? We came into here from here, which makes sense, right? The part that baffles me, and I want to step over.
That's why I'm just wondering, is there anything in there but at the top of validate before like line 49? If we're there, is anything?
Oh, I see. You want to catch it earlier and see. We can do that. Real quick though, I want to so symbol result tree, as soon as we get the symbol result out of the symbol result tree, it already has an error on it. It already has one. So before we've done anything, symbol result tree already has it. So we can collapse all of this up. It's not in here. Because we come in here and then we cast it to an option result. So it already knows. So something on this symbol result tree already got an error added to it. Oh, look at this.
It's the first item.
Well, but look at this symbol result error. The innumerable errors is calculated. Hold on, what is this doing? Symbol result tree errors. Hold on, I want to actually go to the. This is symbol result errors. I want to see there. I think there's an add error message. Yeah. So I want to grab it here because insert first error. Something is adding an error onto here. What's bothering me though is I have a breakpoint in the constructor of parseIr that we aren't hitting. How the heck are we getting a parseIr into a collection without hitting its constructor?
I assume they. Oh nope, no, it's a constructor. I was like, I hope they didn't stick a dumb constructor like at the bottom.
Well, and this is why I'm wondering if it's like a debugger display that's triggering this. Like this shouldn't be possible, right?
Errors new.
Okay. Because there's a handful of things like if you do something bad with debugger display and invoke a property that mutates, right? So symbol tree result, it's already got this.
The first one has the error. Yeah.
The second one has the error.
Sorry, I was on index.
Yeah, sorry, index 1. Yeah. So it already has it. It already has it. And this is what's making me wonder if it's a debugger thing. Okay. Okay. Theory. Let's try this. Parse result errors should have count 1. Right? We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to open up our breakpoints window. And we're going to just disable everything. Turn this one back on. I'm wondering if I don't touch it in the debugger, do I get to my breakpoint? Because if I get
have count 1 versus dot single or b single.
Look at that. It's got to be a debugger display attribute that's doing this. Because there's only one error. That assert passed. Now let's take a little gander at how many errors are in here. Count 2.
Except then what's the failure of this test?
So it depends on who you ask. But that's the debate of the issue. Stupid teams. Okay, so
well, nice job, Kevin. I would not have guessed that.
Process of elimination. There was like somehow we were able to invoke a constructor without a breakpoint being hit. There's only so many ways you can do that.
That'd be a fun brain teaser.
That would be a wonderful brain teaser. Honestly, hang on. This is gonna be. I need to screenshot this real quick. Okay, errors.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Wait, did you switch?
Yes, it did. Hang on. Hang on. We're debugging this, but I am gonna get my I want to get my screenshot too. That's hilarious. That tells us where the debugger display problem is. So if we look at just errors, count of 1. If I look at parse result, and then I look at errors, count of 2. I'm gonna go with debugger display on parse result is the problem. That's my theory. Okay, hold on. Green to GIF. this is getting gift because this needs to
Have
be
you tried out the new screen recorder that's built into Snipping Tool now?
screen recorder built into Snippy tool. Educate me. Control Shift
At
S.
least I haven't. Yeah, I have a.
Oh,
I
look
have
at that.
has a little video record button,
Oh, look at that.
and then you can select your box.
Okay, hang on. We're gonna try this then. So Windows Shift S for anybody like I doubt people can see that on my screen. I don't think that comes through via OBS.
You forgot to switch to video mode.
Oh, dang it. Thank you. Video mode. Then I drag. And then I
Hit start up top so you can move the box around, audio, etc.
and then debug test. And then it's going to do its thing. Oh, but the box moved when I hit debug. Dang it. I need to collapse this. Oh, and then it's off. Shoot. Okay.
We can't even see your box, so it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, but short version, yeah, I mean, it works.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's got a little Clipchamp integration. Does it
Clipchamp doesn't work with
does it
business accounts or enterprise accounts for some reason. It only works with personal accounts. I don't understand it. They say they're getting support for it.
Oh, but it only supports MP4s. So good for screen recording, bad for GIFs.
Yep. Anyways, it's a nice little. Everyone saw. I'm like, I just need to just grab something really quickly, and it's a nice little. It's another one.
Okay.
I also started playing around with one called ShareX, and I haven't learned to love it quite yet, but I've heard good things.
Okay, so we're gonna do. I'm gonna do record, debug test, and then we're gonna demonstrate this. And so we're gonna go errors 1, parse result, errors, error, perfect. Okay, saving that for later.
Is that just a debugger thing, or is there something that we can give extra context to the debugger to know what to do there?
Well, so let's go hunt down this parse result because so one, var is making our issue hard. So let's do this. But I'm willing to bet if we go here, oh, there's no debugger display. Is it a 2-string? A 2-string perhaps? Oh, what's happening is you see it, then it realizes Benjamin is watching it, and it makes an error for him too. Yes, that is exactly how that works. Okay, so there's no debugger display attribute, but
it's usually the other way around. It's that I get errors, and then Kevin comes and watches, all my errors disappear, and I'm like, sorry.
Okay, so here's the theory. Calling parse diagram on this thing does it. That's the theory. So let's test that theory. So without doing any work.
And you're just assuming that because you're hovering over it, 2 strings being called to show the debugger display the shorthand of whatever's happening, diagram's actually doing something
inaccessible due to its protection level. Well, what I heard is make it public. Duh. Okay.
Why
well, that
not F12 into diagram.
It's probably still trying to figure its. Oh, is diagram internal too? Dang nabbit. Public. But I am willing to bet one of these guys is the. But let's. So here's the theory. Because this is a dumb test. Should have count 2.
Is it possible the invoke is part of Where's invoke be called?
Invoke shouldn't be getting called anywhere in
It's
here.
just a funny. It's a funny return. That is a funny return. If parse errors count equals 0, then return parse error return value. Otherwise, return
There it
0.
is. Calling diagram is adding an error to the errors collection. That's
Builder.append error.
okay. You've clearly already found it. So hang on. Builder append error.
I don't know what
What?
the tokens are, but I'm
Well, but
assuming that does something.
this is a string builder. We need something that mutates the errors collection inside a parse result is the thing.
What's
Right?
builder though? Man, not having proper debug is difficult.
Okay, so let's make our life a little easier. So one, let's go into parse result. Let's go to the toString method, and we're gonna whack it. Because right now it's making our life difficult to find where this is happening. Right? And I have a test that proves that this is the problem. Right? So then we're gonna just catch it here, and and now that we can look at parse result without it mutating on us, because that's annoying. It's like that. What is the Schrodinger's box with errors? Okay, so now we can inspect this, right? And if I look at this guy, you're not going to change your error collection on me, right? Count of 1. Is that you finding it?
No, not yet.
I was like, are you celebrating or are you happy? Okay, so I think we can conclude that given that this is the only place parse result is used, the problem's inside this method. Okay, so we're just going to keep chasing the bunny rabbit.
I'm assuming it's this 59 parse result 1 and then append.
Switch option result. Okay. And I want to come up here. I want to grab.
Oh, it iterates through this as many times as it needs to if there's a
add watch.
child.
We're gonna add a watch, and we're gonna watch these errors, because if something happens, darn it, I want to know about it immediately. Because if I step over something, so let's see, add watch, there. Minimize this down so it's only that. Okay, so now that I've got that, not there. Iterates over the children. Child is argument result. Okay, this is recursive, so it's gotta be in here, right?
That's what I was saying. It just keeps going.
Yeah, this is very much a finite state automata type situation. Okay, builder appends are fine, and we haven't mutated our parse errors yet. Okay.
I assume, right, it has to be 61 when it hits the breakpoint in there, because that's where it's looking for errors. But I don't know what append exclamation point does.
Well, but an option has a single argument, so I'm wondering if it's inside of the arguments. Hold on, argument arity. Look at this, maximum number of values greater than 0. Get argument conversion result. Look at that. Get argument conversion result. There, you evil little method. You evil method. Okay, get method shouldn't mutate. Because get argument conversion result, I would not look at that and immediately think, that's going to add an item to my collection. Okay, back to where we were. Chase the bunny rabbit. Validate and convert.
Oh.
Whenever you have the word and in a method name, it immediately makes me pause. That
Get value or default.
Okay, so report
add error. Oh my goodness.
Look at that. Report error if needed. Okay.
Why is it adding it to the tree and not just grabbing it from the tree if it's on the tree?
Well, but
I guess it's not on the tree yet, because that's the
that's the point, because we're inside of the argument result. That is ugly. That is ugly.
So we're in a catch-22 of we're trying to bubble up arguments, errors, but they're not on the tree yet. But then when we do actually add them for the tree in the normal case, it's already there.
Yeah. Okay.
Throw
Okay.
the dot distinct on the end of it and call it a day.
Well, but parse errors don't have, they aren't records and they don't have a quality on them. Right? Like that will be, and you can't just distinct the message. That's the other sucky part about this. Okay. So symbol result tree, add error, applies to public symbol result. Hash map with determinate hash based on error properties. So what is this guy here? That was a joke. Don't do that. Okay, Jeff. Okay, so this guy here, I think, what are you? So this is actually, okay, so hold on, wait, what? This thing returns a symbol result, but the only non-null value it can be is an option result. So this is adding it. This is adding it there. So we're getting this thing once on the option and once on the options argument. So, and the thing is I don't think we want to do this report error if needed.
Is there a test that covers this?
Oh, I guarantee you that there's tests.
If we just whack this, can we find what the test is so that we know what
Yeah.
it's trying to do?
I think that is a wonderful solution. Let me just back up before we get too carried away. Let me make sure we're in a good state. I know we're on main, but let's just make sure all the tests are green to begin with. Okay, one thing's red. What's red?
Oh, it's not the test I just added. It could be.
Parser tests.
Yep, that's mine.
Yeah, okay. So the only failing test right now is yours. So, okay, so here's the naive implementation. And right? Because if the parent is the option result, we don't want to add this. Right? Let's just see what I like your suggestion. Let's see what fails when we do.
If you just comment out 202.
Well, but I think we'll get failures when the argument is like a command argument.
Gotcha.
This way, this thing's checking if the parent's an option. So this will limit us to failures where the parent's an option. Okay, so 8 failures.
One of which is our
yeah. So already. 7 failures. Let's go.
That seems like a big. What's the smallest scope test that we can find?
Why is this not taking me to the test? Let's see here. So what is this testing? Enum values that cannot be parsed result in an informative error. So this is an option with a single argument that's of type enum. Should contain singles. Oh, so this is the other drawback, is there's apparently cases where the error is reported only from the argument. So maybe the issue isn't here. Maybe it's the other one that's wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be relying on, maybe the validator for option results shouldn't be the one adding it because the argument one's already going to do it. Let's try that theory. Try that theory. If we take this back off, right? That goes away. And I'm going to put this guy here, and we're going to go bookmark where argument results are added. We still need to fix the fact that diagram is mutating the collection. Like, that's wrong.
So there is a parse diagram test specifically.
Excellent. Clearly, it's not testing. Does it add errors? So that's a
test.
Shows
type conversion errors.
Well,
So
showing
it's
type.
not checking. It's not showing that. Yeah.
Yeah, but we should set up one that falls into this case and asserts that calling it, like my test that currently exists where I have the has count. The second assert should be has count 1 again. We shouldn't be blowing up. Okay, so bookmarks. Second error added. So let's look at this guy here. So this is argument arity validate argument result. What happens if we get rid of this one? Right? Because this is technically the second add. Well, but it's not. It's not.
It depends on the case that we're in. Isn't there a
the only reason
chicken and egg problem?
Yes, there is a chicken and the egg problem, because the only reason we're hitting this is because of the diagram call. And the only reason the diagram call is hitting it
is because the two strings being called.
Yes. So let's
how did we discover this bug? That's what I want to kind of yes, we agree that there is it.
Yes. So
but like, what was the original failure? Because if she found that this,
so the problem is Kathleen was looking at this test, right? And this test here is doing a CLI parse, and it's asserting that it gets this unrecognized commander argument, right? And that her initial thing was, this feels wrong, right? Why is it reporting 2, 3, 4, right? Because 1 got consumed, and then 2, 3, and 4 all got reported as unrecognized commander argument. Worth noting, this is on her Powderhouse branch.
Yeah.
So, but then there's these extra 2 down here, and my comment was, well, hey, if rather than doing just -x 1, 2, 3, 4, if you repeat the -x every time, or apparently if you turn on allow multiple arguments, you can eliminate these problems, which is potentially a parsing error, right? We should make sure that both work. But then I was like, but you still end up with this expects a single argument, but 4 were provided, right? You still hit this case, and more importantly, you get 2 of them. So we've at least now answered the why the 2 is coming from. And I think what we've said here, the issue is functionally.
So we got 2 separate issues. One is that this option is doing a different thing than we expect. That's what Kathleen was chasing down. While she was chasing that down, she happened to stumble upon a weird debugger display. That's a separate issue we are now chasing down.
Yes, well, but she didn't know it was a debugger display problem.
Yeah, she just
for some strange reason, she assumed that when she inspected the errors collection and it said 2 items, that there were 2 items added to it. Heaven forbid you make that assumption. Yeah. And I think right here, get argument conversion result. This method here is the problematic one. Right? Like, this is problematic. Because this takes in. Well, hang on. How do we get here? This is what I'm surprised of. Why is this null when we get into here?
Is this an issue talking about this? I'm not positive. About maybe where this came into existence.
Default parse error. Oh. Chet.
Oh, you know Chet.
Yeah. Chet is the maintainer of the .NET SDK. So.
Minor things.
Yeah. Yeah, .NET SDK, MS Build, and the templating engine. So, you know. He is, we will call him a primary stakeholder for this library, considering his stuff is built on top of it. Oh, dear heavens. This looks like interactive. This looks like a Jupyter notebook or similar. Given the following option, so he pulls in the package, the system command line. I think this issue was the source of that test we were looking at.
I think yours was a different test, maybe. At least I'm
Well,
looking at
one of the
John's commit on there is a different test.
let's see. We can look at the test. Let's see. So this is
One of the tests is your test, and then there's a second test.
yeah. Well, this
The
was one
added
of the ones that we
implementation
were
test.
looking at though that failed when
Yep.
we were going through it. So that doing that change re-breaks that issue. So that would be
It's this one. Oh, and it has a issue link.
well, I assume it's the one we just came from, 1629. Yeah, 1629.
Yeah.
One we came from.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
And there they change validate
So,
that function.
but here's what's surprising me, because you can call get argument conversion result multiple times, and it's not going to re-invoke that parse call, right? Because this guy gets set. So when we're calling diagram, this thing hasn't been set. Despite the fact that we called parse, this value isn't set yet. That may be the bug. The fact
You expect that it should be set, so validate and convert shouldn't get called.
yeah, I'm surprised.
What case should it get called, do you think?
Only the very first time. I would expect when we do the parse, this has already been done. Right? Like this should have and maybe we're getting a new instance of this guy. Let's check, because I'm wondering if this guy here, because where does he get assigned? He gets assigned 33, and hang on, we're just gonna break point each of these. Those are all the assignments. Add air is another one where he gets assigned.
Can't run builds.
Ha ha ha. And validate and convert is only invoked in 2 places, and both places. Yeah, so the problematic method, validate and convert, right, are only invoked in 2 places, and the 2 places they get invoked
Right next to each
are
other.
going to cache this. So I'm wondering if we're getting a different argument result between parse and diagram, and that's why.
Wouldn't it be a new conversion result too, though?
If we get a new argument result instance, absolutely. That's what I'm wondering about. Because in theory, I would have thought that once we do this parse, we've got a parse result, it's done, it's parsed, we're done, right? We got the result back. But somehow feeding that into here mutates it again. Right? So let's debug this, because I'm curious if by the time we hit this first breakpoint, what?
Hopefully that's not me.
Oh no, that's probably me. I think I typoed something.
Ooh.
Okay. Let me just check our diff real quick. I want to make sure. Kraken, don't make me hate you. Let's see. So we've published some stuff so that we could get access to it. Commenting out the toString so that it stops shooting us in the foot.
That's what I was working on.
Test you added. White space, white space, white space, white space. Oh, they're going to hate me. White space, white space. Actually, why do I have white space turned on? There we go. Okay.
Test I added.
Yeah. Okay. So that's okay. So we're in a good place. We're in a good place. No outstanding things. Okay. So I want to see how many times we create an argument result. Okay. So here's our first argument result. Right? And this is coming through from. So it's parsing the option, right? The option parses its argument. What a shock, right? Gets a new argument result, right? All the way through from the parse. This makes sense. This is what we expect. One of these guys. But Despite parsing already, it has not parsed the argument. So when we call diagram, that is the first time it actually tries to parse the argument result on. If we step over this guy, right? And then we step into here, conversion result is null because we've not called. And
So what's the difference between argument result and parse result? I think
so
we need to give context.
that, yes, thank you. So parse result is the kind of top level parent object of doing the entire parse operation. A parse result itself ends up containing a lot of stuff, like here are all of my tokens, here are all my parse errors, here's all of the things that came from it. But the key part is you get the command result, and the command result is what also contains that symbol result tree, which means then you have all of the results of the children all the way down. Right? So that's ultimately what's getting it. Look at this symbol result tree real quick. Where do we put it? Add watch. It's not valid in given context. What do you mean it's not valid? Oh, because I'm up a layer. Let's try again. So this guy here, and this is what's interesting, is somehow we added in, we have an argument result, right? Like it made an argument result, but it's not the same. Oh, it's not an argument convert. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it made the argument result. It made the argument result. And this guy here has no errors, right? Yeah. Interesting. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So
That
it,
simple result tree really does.
well, the symbol result
Hmm.
tree, this is where we came in from too. So this is just recursive back on itself. But so the symbol result tree contains the various result objects. Like in this case, we had a command. The command has a single option. The option has a single argument. Right? And it's we hide away the fact that options have arguments when you use CLI option of T. Like there's the internal argument guy. So when you because most of the time CLI options only need to take in a single argument. What's interesting? So the thank you, Izzy, keeping me honest. It is surprising to me that we got back a parse result, and the argument result inside of the parse result doesn't have any conversion specified on it. Because we would get this same problem if we called get value.
If you call it directly after parsing.
Well, but would we? Would we? I don't know if we would, because I think option is, and this is all coming back in ye olden days. CLI option didn't hide away its argument. It was public. And it caused a great deal of confusion for some people. And we went, you know what? It doesn't need to be public. Let's just hide away the fact that options have arguments. I enumerated at some point. Well, we tracked down the cause, Izzy, of what's doing it. And it's the toString method on parse result was invoking this method here. This method here, we have found when it's building up this diagram string of it, it ultimately ends up calling argument result, get argument conversion result. And this validation ends up adding an additional error into the symbol tree, which is how we're getting to. And we can't just whack this, because there are cases where this is needed. There are cases where this is needed. And yeah, that's the hard part, is knowing where, because it's not clear to me exactly which of these operations is wrong. I'm wondering, well, yeah, because diagram is wanting the conversion result. Let's look at option result, because it's not misbehaving. So let's just take a little gander. So option result, get value or default calls into argument conversion result, convert if needed, get value or default. Right, so this is doing conversion result, doing some parsing, doing some work. But I don't think any of these actually add in errors, do they? No, they may throw and do bad stuff. Times like this, C++ const is a good thing. Yeah, this is one of those cases where I don't know, like, ultimately, the original question that we were asked was, hey, figure out why you're getting 2 errors instead of 1, because 2 doesn't make sense. We can explain the why. But I'm fairly confident that Kathleen's next thing is going to be, oh, well, how should we fix it? And I don't have an answer for that yet.
In that case, have we answered the why?
Well, the toString on parse result is invoking diagram. Diagram invokes the argument conversion result validate. Validate adds an error.
You remember? Have you heard of like the 5 whys?
Yes,
I feel like that's what this is.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Which is fair. We can say what is wrong. And clearly calling diagram and having a second option go in is incorrect. But I am still wondering why after a parse, because option
conversion result isn't, so you'd expect conversion result gets set through the process of parse at some point in time.
That's my thinking. Like, argument result caches it, option result caches it. I guess let's look at this. Does option result have a cached argument conversion result? Right? Let's start there. Should diagram not just read the thing and not execute the validate? That is yes. The problem is the thing that it needs to read is the argument result object. So it needs to get this argument conversion result is what diagram wants to read, and it only goes after and creates one if it doesn't already exist. So it doesn't exist.
Wouldn't you expect that gets called on the add? Don't you expect the add error method would have gotten called on the argument result
already
object? Yeah,
probably, and that's why I'm wondering if maybe
what if we throw what's the calls to the add error method, because that instantiates a conversion result if there isn't one, it looks like.
Correct. So the thing is, the symbol result here is an option result. So it's adding the error to the option, not to the argument. And that's where things are getting weird, right? Is it's adding the error to the option, not to the option's argument. But then diagram, when it wants to go and look at it, it's looking at the argument as well, because it's recursive, right? Which
so is there a question of where should this error live? Is there a question of does it live on the option or argument?
Probably. And I'd be willing to stake money that the reason it's being added to the option was that's where it was put when we hid away the argument. Because if we add it to the argument rather than the option, it means when somebody tries to retrieve errors for the option, they're not going to get any. They should.
because it's there. So yeah, got it. You're trying to aggregate the arguments that are on the
You
argument
know,
that are obfuscated away.
but maybe that's the solution. Maybe it should be added to the argument in the tree. But when they retrieve errors on the option should pull for both itself and its argument.
That's what I would expect. Is that if I call option result and argument errors are obfuscated one level away, it aggregates all the errors together and displays them out in one chunk. Because I think an error 2 has enough detail that if you really wanted to, like if you're debugging or something, you can figure out whether it's actually an argument error or an option error, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So let's look at that path for a moment. Let's look at that path. Yeah, and Izzy points out that accessor is potentially a much better name given the lazily executed. And to some degree, I will say this, there's certain changes that we just won't be able to make because the error case is uncommon and this library has to remain hyper performant for the success case because that's what most of the time is going to happen. So let's
I don't type words in very well, so I fall into the failure case often.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Most people that aren't Benjamin type in the successful command right away rather than shooting themselves in the foot. Let's see. So we come in here. Come in here. Sorry, I'm okay, symbol result tree. So what we want to look at is the symbol result tree and where the add error is occurring. Right? Because we want to
Wow, these namings are giving me.
we want this guy here.
Do you see the naming at the top?
Naming at the top.
Of the file.
Symbol result tree.
No, just the fields.
Oh.
They have the same.
Yeah, and this is why I'm wondering if it's difference between internal and private.
I did check on Powderhouse, and there's a to-do to switch it to a property, so we might just be switching things to be properties and try to protect them if possible.
So it may be a.
It may be a non-issue eventually.
Yeah. Well,
but it does
consider
sound like
that an easy contribution. That's an easy to do to fix.
Oh, I already have it on my to-do list.
Okay, so here's the add coming in, add parse error, right? And so let's go up the food chain because what we're saying is this really should not be an add error on the option. Because this is where it's happening, right? Is option result add error. This is what is actually adding it down onto the option rather than onto the argument, right? So what we could change here is argument result add error. Right, we can do this maneuver. Okay, now how many things do you think we just broke?
Nothing.
Boy, that's nice wishful thinking. Okay, so let's see how much belly up this thing goes. Because I think you're right, is it might not be that bad to chase down the failures. Whoa.
In general, chasing down aggregate, wait, what did you just do?
It only broke one test. Because I'm not counting the one you wrote.
Well, I wrote 2 tests, so wait, I didn't assert on 1 test, so.
Okay, if you did write an assert, that's on you.
I don't know if I forget if I got that far.
Parse diagram tests.
Oh, that was me. I hadn't finished writing tests.
Wait, so hold on. You're telling me I can switch this thing.
Show me what you just did. I was busy bouncing somewhere else.
Yeah, so the change that I just made is from option result add error, argument result add error.
And this is on command result.
And this is where we had our breakpoints
So
pushing.
you're now setting it one level deeper.
Yep.
Does option result already aggregate these out? Can we see that?
Does option result aggregate these out?
Aggregate out the argument errors?
Good question. Let's take a look.
I know we might not have a test for it, but
Well, the tests that we have are going to end up, and this is why I think it may not matter, is because a lot of these things are shelling out to the internal argument conversion result. So the argument conversion result that is now on, that the option is holding on to, now has the error. So we might be okay. That is shocking that. So something John told me when I started working on this project a long time ago, because I did something like this where I made a change. I'm like, is this change okay? And his exact words were, if the tests all pass, it's a perfectly fine change. Because he has made, he has been incredibly pedantic about making sure that every requirement is captured in a test. So if you can make a change and it doesn't break a test, it means you aren't violating any known requirements. And if there's a new requirement, there's a new test that gets added. Holy crap, we may have just fixed it. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. This gets me excited now. Okay, so we've got this, right? So what we expect down here.
the fact that you decided to switch that, I would not have thought to even do that at this point.
That the only reason I knew to make the change there is I've been in that code a lot. And the short version is during all of the parsing and validation, like it has that tree, commit and push. The only drawback is I'm not a contributor on the repo, so I have to PR it. But for whatever reason, I have full access to Kathleen's forks, so I can force push there. Okay, so this thing here, the argument that was made is this test here should pass, right? And actually, you have the same one down here. Both of these tests should pass.
They don't.
Okay, so why does this test not pass? Because this is the original test.
No, opposite way around. That one doesn't pass, I think.
Well, no.
But you're right. You're right.
Yeah, the original code looked like this.
Yep, you're totally right.
Right? This is our new one. And this is the one that we should look at why it's failing, because I'm willing to bet unrecognized commander argument 4. So this thing is making this statement that, and it could just be that this is wrong, right? Because this is technically the new test for. So I want to look at those errors.
This is that new requirement thing that we kind of. I don't know how thoroughly this is.
Well, but
been a requirement in the past.
The assertion that was made earlier was that both of these, and I'm going to turn off some breakpoints as we hit them, and I'm going to disable this breakpoint. Okay, is that both of these parsings should work given a proper arity. The new requirement, I think, is making sure that when you exceed the maximum arity, that we give back a useful error, right? I think that's the new requirement that is not captured fully in these tests. And specifically because these tests aren't asserting on the number of errors, they're just asserting that one of the errors matches, right? And I think that's the additional test that we might need to write. Wait. Option X expects a single argument, but 4 were provided. So this is a bad error message, right? Because this is where we're saying expects a single argument. And I think this is where we just lack a localization call. because we should probably have an additional, right? Because if the token count exceeds the maximum number of values, the fact that this says expects one argument ignores the fact that maximum number of values might be bigger than one, which is wrong, right? Like this is
expects maximum number of values, or expects up to maximum number of values is
yeah.
blank.
Yeah, and this is where we probably want to do something along the lines of command. This thing says command. That's not the. So this is wrong too, because this is option expects one argument. Yeah. So this is wrong. That's the actual thing.
What's the and APOS?
Apostrophe.
Apparently, I've never written an apostrophe into my XML comments.
Yeah, most people do the quote one instead. Yeah, and so this guy here, yeah, because this, yeah, Izzy's comment expects nargs, which is kind of what I kind of want to have one that's, it's XML. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember. There was something, because unfortunately, I know the moron who did these localizations the first time. And he's sitting right here.
Whoa, don't put this on me.
I'm trying to remember where I go to edit these things, because I think it's a weird way of because the resx files are, there's a bunch. So for people unfamiliar with it, Microsoft has a team of engineers that do their DevOps work. These people work insanely hard. And they do a lot of magic, and their magic is called Arcade. And Arcade is both wonderful when it works and a miserable nightmare when it doesn't. And I think, yes, I think we can go here, because if we add something here, I believe Arcade shells out to whatever localization service thingy they do, and people get notified, and then they go and do the translations into all the supported .NET languages and yada, 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 yada. Okay, so if we want to add one, I've done a train full of people. Benjamin, you just entertained a train full of people. Congratulations. So here's the question. What do we want this to say? I think it's something along the lines of option expects.
So you're saying I can just add things to this file and it'll make people go do work?
To boom arguments, but blank were provided. I think this is what we do, is something like this, right? I think that's what we're going for. And then I'm trying to think of the condition that we write.
It's not one again, though.
Because we know in our... It's not one again. Oh, thank you. All right. I'm just trying to think, because inside of here, right, we've got this. Because effectively what we want to do is... it's like... So once we get inside...
If allow multiple arguments per token is on, arity is ignored, right?
Correct, because it allows you to specify it as many times as you want, and functionally last in wins, which is helpful for script writers where they may have inputs coming from other sources.
So I think we essentially want... Can't we just get rid of the expects one argument and just replace it? I can't think of where expects one argument is actually right.
I think we want it...
And we can't just use it.
Well, the arity being 1 is like gonna be like the 95% case for people, because most of the time people are going to be using CLI option of T T is not going to be an array or a collection. It's going to be a thingy. And so I think what we want to do
Totally agree, but
is,
do we want to add an if condition? I don't know if we want to add a condition that says if we're in the one case, then do this, otherwise do this when our error message is sufficient for both.
you're questioning if we actually want to do this. Because
I just don't know. I don't know the value added.
That is fair. So you are failed too many arguments. So your argument is, rather than just the expect one argument, is we change the current message to be this.
And it's just used for what? Is there anywhere else expect one argument is used? I'm assuming there's 2 references, so I'm assuming we can't just whack it. But
I mean, right now it's used in the 2 places where
cool.
we've done it.
So we could just switch it.
Yeah. So you are correct. So is it better?
If we're talking about performance, I know it's nothing, but like we are removing a check that I can't think of the.
I'm just thinking if I want to read this message or if I want to read this message is the question. Like, that's the only thing that's giving me a bit of pause, is which do I want to read expects, 0 to 1 arguments. That's the other thing, is arguments is plural and doesn't work if this value is a 1, right? Grammatically, you end up having to do something like this.
That's true. Interpolates values into a localized string similar to option 1. Expects a single argument, but
so
X were provided.
It is also worth noting that once we're in this situation here, in terms of the errors, is there are multiple things that determine whether the minimum matters, because options are by definition optional unless you set the is required flag, in which case required. And then they are, and that's where it starts to matter. I think we do want 2 separate messages, honestly.
If we're just going for readability, I think that's fine. In terms of logic.
Okay, so what are we wanting to call this? Expected argument
You're now to the most difficult part of programming.
Exceeded.
Naming. The
expects one argument. I'm trying to name it similar to the other one. Expects not one argument, expects fewer arguments.
Is it necessarily fewer though? Wait, given if the token count is greater than, so
yeah,
what does happen in the other case?
If your token count is less, that you end up with the I believe required error message, right? Because here's your minimum, right? Required argument missing. You end up with and maybe that's a good point, right? Required argument missing for command, which is a bold-faced lie, because that's if the command result. Otherwise, it does this one. Required argument missing.
Well, that's almost the same as we're about to write.
Required argument.
Except the inverse.
Yeah, well, but this says required argument missing for option. Expects bounded arguments. Ooh. I like the word bounded. I like that, Izzy. Expects bounded arguments. Because we can.
I don't know why, but the word bounded there. I don't know. I feel like it has a different meaning. I'm trying to come up with words for it though.
I'm almost wondering too if we don't need to include the minimum in this,
because that would get handled by the required case.
Well, expects. I feel like expects at most
blank arguments, but
but
blank were provided.
blank were provided, because that aligns with our conditions better, which
It's true.
then this then makes the naming easier.
Yep.
Expects at
Maximum.
most, right? And then we're gonna need to feed it one more value, but
Then
that
does this go back to the, is it worth combining? The only thing I see that we get out of the Xbox One argument then is not having to parenthesize the S on arguments.
the problem is pluralization's hard. There's a couple cases in here where we had to pluralize separate localization messages, because certain languages it's not as simple as just an apostrophe S. So the moment you have to differentiate them, I think we do go this route though. Kind of liking this now that I think about it. Let's go. Wow. Oh, that's the wrong field. Let's go there. And then
Wow. I just, for the first time I ever got Copilot to not give me a response because of match public code.
expects.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if at most is wrong. Expects fewer arguments. Hey, welcome.
We name
Pikachu.
it somehow with the inverse of the required argument missing. What's the inverse of that? Too many required argument? Too many arguments present?
Many.
Maximum arguments exceeded?
Ooh, I like that. Pikachu, welcome. And yes, feel free to ask questions. Tonight we're doing something I'll argue is some potentially complex, but feel free to definitely throw in any questions. I always enjoy diving into stuff. Hang on, shameless self plug, really quick. Boom, boom, boom. Also, if you are
Good plug.
new to C#, here is an entire book on everything.
You include the controller on your link.
Oh, dang it. It's because it's in my URL, Benjamin. Why is it in my URL? See?
I'll work on that. I also haven't gotten www to forward. Someone needs to give me more time to work on that project.
But yeah, if you are interested in diving in, definitely check out the site. If you've got questions, feel free to drop lines. If you try to get a hold of me, all links are cycling below my name. Okay, maximum arguments, what'd you say, exceeded?
Yes.
I can get on board with that, because at the end of the day, we're going to need to pass option results, and then we're going to need to pass this. Right? Because option result doesn't have, I don't think we can get to argument result from option result. At least I don't think we can.
Pikachu, there's a feedback button at the top of that page. So if you have any additional features you want, or you find bugs, just drop us a line, and
I'll make Benjamin fix them.
We're actually real people behind it, so things actually happen every once in a while.
Yeah, the only disadvantage is sometimes we get allocated work hours to work on it. Other times we don't.
Most of the time we don't. We just make hours.
I think we need the word option in this name too.
Maximum option arguments exceeded?
Well, option arguments
maximum exceeded.
I'm just thinking of where it's going to drop in the naming list. Yeah.
That's very nice of you.
So the thing is this code goes through API review, and if you think I'm being picky, holy cow, watch the YouTube recordings of API reviews from the .NET team. There are long debates on single characters, and I get it, right? They've got a very high quality bar.
Apparently, did Microsoft Graph go through that? Sorry.
Satire. I probably shouldn't have done that as quickly as I just did because now I didn't give myself this, but we can
Option max. I
uh
feel like if they're picky, they might want the full word maximum instead of max, but
I did do full word.
no, I was reading Izzy's.
Oh. Yeah, they get very picky
And the
about
thing about max,
abbreviations.
I agree that it reads better, but it does split up the logic of it's an option argument from the idea of it's the maximum of those things. I think option arguments needs to be next to each other. Maximum can either be at the beginning or end, but I would think maximum option arguments exceeded actually reads best. But Kevin knows the API review better, so if they wouldn't,
Honestly, like it's one of those times where I feel incredibly outclassed by all the people on the call because arguably the handful of times I've been on the call for those API reviews, I might be the dumbest one on the call. There's a real possibility. There's some smart people on that. I just swapped words in my head. Yeah. Okay, so if we do something like that, right? We're gonna do option result, and then we're gonna do int maximum arguments.
you should keep the word options in there if we're going with that standard.
Like that.
Yeah,
And then,
maybe allowed if we wanted to read better.
oh man, you're going crazy. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but we're starting to write sentences in our variable names.
Also,
Okay.
if you could keep the line count to maximum of 72, that'd be great.
Okay. But the key thing here, we've got our format string. We've got parameter 0, which goes here. We've got parameter 1, which goes here. We got parameter 2, which goes here.
And do we have in the right order? But 2 were provided. Great.
Okay. And I just want to confirm, I can't do...
You're wondering if option result knows how many arguments it's supposed to have?
Yeah, I think I can't. API reviews are hard. I used to do 4-hour calls for that. We would debate a single argument for a single command. Yes. Yes. And to some degree, if there's a lot on the line, it makes a lot of sense to do that. And for like things that go into the .NET SDK, there's a lot on the line. Like they have literally millions of users. So I get it. For other places, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, so we have, and still not come to any useful conclusions. Amen. I'm fairly confident API reviews are where the term bike shedding comes from.
Is that a common term?
Bike shedding? Do you not know this term?
I did not.
Oh, hold up. Educational moment. Educational moment.
Kevin, you always have educational moments.
Bike shedding in computer science, I guess. I don't know. I should probably. Yeah, this is a fairly one. Law of triviality, or Parkinson's law of triviality.
Oh, so computer science.
Yes. Project management software engineering to describe a phenomenon where people give disproportionate weight to trivial issues while neglecting important ones. As the story goes, there was some sort of like construction project going on, and they ended up having meeting after meeting, and things kept dragging out further and further because they were debating the color of the bike shed. And so there was hence the term bike shedding, of people going round and round trying to argue about what colors should the bike shed be. And the answer is just pick a color. Like at a certain point, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Pikachu, there is no question too simple. So fire away. Because I think we are getting close to a resolution here. So we are going to want to change this. And honestly, I think we should be hitting this case for both. Yes. Okay. Okay, so this shouldn't be that anymore. This should be option Option arguments maximum exceeded. Uh,
See, Izzy, you say that, but those are also like at the same time, as much as they might be apparently bike shedding, there's those discussions are so fun sometimes. Like it's kind of like coming with coding guidelines. You go circle and nitpicky, but like there's something so fun about them. Is
ooh,
it possible
let's.
to concatenate two strings to a variable and then use that variable to reference an array of that to reference an array of
Oh, so that's okay. So let me see if I
oh
hold on. Let me see if I understand the question correctly. I think I understand it. But
is this a
so
can you
this
go
is
from a string to typed
foo
variable name?
one, foo two, right? So we've got two strings, right? And then we've got no copilot, no. Foo one gets, let's see. So we want
Copilot has no idea where we're going with this.
yeah, copilot, unless you're reading my chat, just shut up. Bad copilot. So concatenate two strings to a variable, right? So I guess to be fair, what we could actually do is something like A plus B, right? And then we want to use this string here to reference. So if we had a, we call this AB, right? So if we have, so I think what you're what's the thing in Discord? Oh, sweet. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Look at that. You've got code and everything. Perfect. Perfect. If I go here, boom. So we've got array name, right? So we go there, and then array name, and then wanting to actually get back to this. So there is, so is there a way to go from string to effectively identifier?
Type. Identifier
Yeah.
of a variable.
Yeah. So something akin to this. I don't want to say no directly, but so the default answer is going to be very or not easily, but I'm trying to think now how I would go about doing this. So there are a handful of things that where you can go from strings to identifiers. They're often going to drive you into like the reflection APIs. Benjamin, grab a link to reflection chapter in book. The hard part though is it's going to be something like if you have private int array name, right? This is actually easier to reference via a string than this. And the reason is because this is a field inside of a class, whereas this is a local variable inside of a method. So if we were to reference it via a field, we could do something like type, my type, get type, right? And we could do my type, get field, right? And get field takes in a string, which you can then use. And I'm going to just cheat real quick and make it public, and I'll explain why in a moment. But I could actually come in here and go holder variable, right? Var array, right? And get field is going to return a field info class. So use explicit type, and maybe we'll do this. Field, right? And then to actually get the array out, you end up doing field get value, and you have to give it the instance to read. So once you start coding with reflection, and then this becomes, hang on, I'll finish it out. Found array gets like this. You end up having to typecast because get value just returns object because it doesn't know the type of the field. Once you start coding with reflection, there's a few things to be aware of. One, you've basically thrown away type safety, which is why doing what you're asking for just kind of easily is not trivial in C#, because C# wants to be type safe. The compiler wants to check stuff. The moment you start doing stuff with strings, the compiler can't help you. And C# wants to be a compiled language, not an interpretive language, right? Interpreted languages like JavaScript or similar, this type of stuff becomes a little easier. And you start being able to get into doing somewhat interesting things of this nature. Oh, I get rid of my code up here, right? However, reflection does exist, and it does give you the ability to reach into it. The other thing that I commented on a moment ago is I made this thing public, and that was intentional. A lot of the get methods inside of reflection, so get field, get method, get property, they have multiple overloads. The simple one just takes in a string, but the second one takes in a set of binding flags. And the unfortunate part is the default binding flags that you get out of the box aren't going to retrieve non-public things. So if you want non-public things, you have to actually ask for them. And I will warn people, this is a great way to get yourself into trouble. So take what I'm about to show you with a grain of salt. You have to specifically say that you want to grab the non-public stuff. Otherwise, you aren't going to get non-publics back. You're only going to get public things. This also allows you to arbitrarily change private variables. And so reflection allows you to violate the rules of encapsulation. So, yeah. So that's bad, but sometimes it's necessary. Like maybe you don't own access to the class or similar. So
it's also really useful sometimes. Like if I use this a lot with like testing. Let's say I want to rip through all methods or all classes that derive from some other class. I can then say, hey, via reflection, go grab all classes that derive from a certain class and just give those to me dynamically. So I never have to like update that list. Let's say I'm doing like some kind of like check that all members on these classes are private. I don't know, some kind of verified test or something. I can that list will dynamically update because I'm checking on a condition that's being reflected out of the compiled code.
yeah, so it's also the way how a lot of serializers work. So like JSON serializers do something similar where they can create classes. So once you dive into the world of reflection, it's very meta level programming. Yeah, and so to some degree, if you are getting to this point, there's often alternate ways to write the code that more people will look at. Either passing in delegates or similar is a common way of kind of getting similar behavior, but still have it being type safe. So
also, reflection is very slow relatively. Everything in C# is fast, but it's just something to note that you don't want to go generally do reflection unnecessarily, not just for type safety, but it is relatively, remember, C# is measured in like nanoseconds, I think we're at, right? I
yes,
think that's where we're at. So relatively, it's slow.
yeah, I think a reflection is usually like, I think it's around like 100x slower than just a straight invocation. Like if you were to just retrieve the field, it's insanely fast, but multiply that insanely fast times 100 when you use reflection because it has to jump through extra hoops. And then there's things like boxing and unboxing because it has to go to an object and then back down. And so there's extra hits that you will take going through reflection. So for what it's worth, hopefully that's helpful. Not good for trimming either. That is true. So if you do trimming, you have to be careful with reflection. Not all reflection is unsafe from trimming, though. It depends. It depends on what you're doing. Like what Benjamin commented of ripping through all classes. As long as you understand in your code that trimming might trim something out, that reflection code is still perfectly fine because it'll act on whatever's left. So there's things like that where what it'll end up doing. Oh, and thank you for the sub, Pikachu. Okay. Where wasn't I? Where wasn't I? Okay, so we have a thing in here. Do we not use... Man, we don't use this anywhere.
We're just using it in one case.
Yeah, but like I'm gonna end up having to build an option result just to get... because in order to get this message,
yeah.
I need that. Screw it. We're gonna cheat. See that? Cheating.
You want to have that just... Are you about to do that?
What'd I miss? Let's see.
Yep.
This.
That's exactly what I was about to suggest. You're ahead of me.
And then I want
the option result now just becomes And
Maximum
wait,
or how about found?
current
How about
or
found token count? That more accurately? I'm just thinking that that lines up nicely with what this is, right?
part is probably about programming.
Part completely agree. But now I can get away with this. Right? Because now I can go here and I can go option. My option name is going to be X. My maximum options allowed is going to be 3. Oh, but not a string. And my found option count will be 4. And now my test passes. Please, red X turn into a green check mark and make me happy. Yay! Okay. The other thing that I think we would like to do here is parse result. We would like to go and put back that code that I deleted. Right? So now we think this is not a problem. Right? We think we're okay.
Oh. I didn't finish it, but I started writing a test on diagrams so we could catch our failure case too, because we probably want that failure case before we.
Perfect. I'm gonna just test this really quick and see. And this is the other drawback is the way Kathleen wrote it is I don't think she was able to access the errors collection before the parse result because I think she did something like this, right? Where you hit the parse result first and then go to errors. Look at that. Look at that. See that? No longer duped.
It works.
Woo!
Nice job.
Oh, that was way too messed up. Okay.
It was way too easy to fix at the same time, though.
Yeah, I'm wondering, should we go put a test on parse result?
So I started throwing one on diagram or parse diagram tests.
Probably a good place for it.
It's your other failure
why
test.
am I? Oh, is it? You're so helpful.
I did not finish it. I just started. It's basically the same as this, just in a different place with a name starting to go. So
okay, parse result diagram.
I got distracted doing other things.
I'm gonna add a with incorrect with
number.
About I'm gonna go with too many option arguments. 1 error is returned. Okay, so we have this. I don't think we need this.
I don't think you need 58 either. Well, I guess we could, so then we can make sure that it's not duped. But
well, I think what I want to do here is I want to do because we've got. Do
we want to do? Oh wait, I see what you're saying. Got it. Yeah.
Because I don't even need this, right? So I think what I'm gonna do is
we could also call just parse result.toString. So I guess it wouldn't be testing diagram.
Yeah, if we do that, we're gonna move the code because this is in parse diagram. So if we're gonna, like, I think we test.
It would be interesting to throw a test in though that calls toString on.
Oh, but hang on,
parse result.
We can't do it here like this. We can't do it like this. Parse result. We have to call it this way because I need to go and revert my.
Just stash it.
I think we keep most of this, but I need to revert my public to internal. This one. So because that's what we need to make sure.
You also want to stash your fix so we can get a failure first.
Yes. Let's write this test first. Diagram. So I'm mildly impressed that it knew to do that. Like, that's impressive. Because I think that's correct. Which is shocking that it's figured out the diagram output.
It's slightly different than the 82 one. Where did 82 get its executable name from?
82. This is a static. And this looks it up from the executable name, which is going to come from the assembly. which gets weird inside of test projects because of test host, but okay, but what do we want to validate that? I kind of want to do
Pairs.
I kind of want to do this, right? Like I don't actually need to validate the output of diagram. But what I want to do then is this should
Parse
be,
result.
yeah. When you name it correctly,
That.
ish.
That's our test. That's what
To
we said.
arguments, I think I want only one error is returned. Yeah, I was wondering if we should check on the number, but you make a good point. So let's is it command result? Yeah.
See, this is where I wish assert.single was good in fluent assertions.
Command result 128. I know.
When do you use have count versus contain a single?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know when you pick one or the other. I mean, obviously, have count has count is more versatile, but you make a good point that has count 1 and contain single are basically equivalent. I think contain single, the error message outputs the item it found. Izzy, good luck at work. Have a good day. Don't have too much fun.
Well, then, should we use contain single? Wouldn't that be a better error message then?
Is having the error message in the failure useful in this case or not? Or is having the error message report the count more useful? Given that our test says has one error, does it matter?
In our case, where we saw that it was a duplicate error, so it probably doesn't matter too much. But that was would have been somewhat useful if it popped out same error twice.
Sorry, something very important. I have discovered that there are new flavors of Mountain Dew available in this city, and where to find them.
I saw a thing on social media the other day that someone made Mountain Dew wine.
Yeah, I've seen people do it. More importantly, this is a thing.
Wow.
And I
Where's
now
the road
know
trip
of
tomorrow?
two stores that apparently have it in stock. So, guess where I'm going tomorrow. Okay.
So the only thing is the arguments that we saw of the duplicate, would that be useful to see that those arguments were duplicated? Instead of just seeing the count was more than one, you see, hey, it didn't just contain one, but it actually contained duplicates.
That is interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So I think that would have then it would have bubbled up. It would make it obvious what the failure is, not
Because
just that there is a failure.
Because if you get 2 again, not knowing what the 2 are changes you the way you approach it. Okay, I like that.
You're like, okay, I'm getting 2 different argument errors versus I'm getting the bug is a different bug in some ways. Like you chase it down a different way.
Yeah, no, that makes. And so I've undone my fix.
I'll also argue if we do contain single here, we should do it in the other tests we've been doing in parser tests.
That is fair. Well, let's look at the error message we got here first before we get carried away. Let's see.
Wow.
Expected to contain a single item, but found that.
How useful.
Okay, I concede you are 100% correct. Okay, so there's that. We go here.
Okay. First, I was like, I didn't see you do that. I was like, oh no.
So hold on. Now we take this out.
Control RL.
Control RL.
No, not Control R, Control L, Control RL. Nope, not Control R.
Yeah, you know what? I have trouble understanding simple directions. Test pass! Huzzah! Okay. That now works. We have a new test. Okay, so that guarantees that we don't care about this.
Do we care about the error message just bubbled up
I
here?
think we can call this parse.
Or is that caught at the parser test level
I
and we
think
don't
that's
care
caught
here.
at the parser test. I don't think we care about the errors. I think the key thing that we were acknowledging here with, I think in this case, it's actually with not too many option arguments. I think this is literally with option error. Option argument error. Because this would occur with any error with the option argument, not just the one case that we did, right? We're triggering a specific one that we know about, but this would have occurred with any of them.
Would this ever happen with an option error?
I don't think so, because
Probably not,
the
because
fundamental problem was it calling into the options
Yeah,
argument result.
and validating and converting up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Did you had a suggestion for one more test that we needed?
Just contain single. Did we get both of our other tests passing?
All my tests are passing. Here, I'll run the whole suite.
That was the one. No, my other suggestion was make the other ones contain single, not just have count one.
Got it. Okay.
Also, we could. I don't know. Are we doing this? Are we throwing issue numbers on top of tests?
Not often. If they came from issues, they sometimes get linked. And in this case, it may be worthwhile. You know what? Okay. I know I literally just said no, but yeah, we should do it.
Because we kind of chased down two distinct things.
So we're gonna go here, and let me go grab
2932, if I remember.
Yeah,
nope,
this
2392.
So we're gonna grab that and put that in. This test is not present in the original sources. Wow. No, Copilot, you are wrong. Get in line. Okay. And
do we actually? Is this comment might only need to be needed on the
other one? This is the result of this test.
No,
this test is the result of the confusion.
Yep. I prefer it here. I agree.
This is what's causing the confusion. Okay. And then
I just remembered I'm on here. I could go switch these things myself.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I just been staring at the other screen.
Okay, so we're gonna do. I'm gonna get rid of the bad line. See you, Joshua. Talk to you tomorrow. Why is option result in here?
Oh, I can see get changes. Nice.
I'm going to undo this change because this is going to cause Powderhouse problems if I leave this one in. And it's not relevant, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay.
You might want to turn your white spaces back on to know what you're actually committing.
Oh, that's a good point. Dang it. Okay, that. Those... Well, turn off ignore, but leave the rest of them on. Fixing that, adding the two overloads. Right? And then here we have that test. Then parser test. This is where we have too much stuff. So one, we don't need that line. I'm gonna discard some of these white space changes. That way they don't bite me in code review. Despite how much I love them, I don't need them. They're not relevant to the fix. So, and I don't want to cause myself merge conflicts with Powderhouse. What's the change here? Oh, a space after that. Let's see. Discard. Okay, these we want to keep. And I'm going to keep that white space.
Aren't you in chunks? I'm kind of surprised.
What do you mean? Because I'm not in chunk view, I'm in split view.
Oh.
If you want to do hunk view, you can do this. I sometimes like the bigger context. But yes, if you just want the hunks, you can just go that way. Or you can do inline.
But I like it for some of those kind of things. And you just grab the wins or actually make changes and I just drop.
That's a good point. The hunks probably would have been quicker to just go discard. I just default to split view. It makes me happy. I'm going to keep this white space change because I think it's relevant. So, okay. So, we're going to do this. Which fork should I push to? We got too many forks. I should make a branch.
Hey,
Okay.
I also have 4 remotes.
Yeah, I see it. I even have you added as a remote. You must have
Yeah,
me added. Or
I don't know why I have you as. Why do you have? I don't know. I have you as.
oh, because you
I've.
sent me a cloud patch, which auto added the remote in, and I sent you a branch link, which probably auto added in your remote. Let's see. Fix. What's my issue number? 2392. 2392. Boom. Call it good enough.
Are we gonna?
Fixing.
How's this work with Powder House? Do we rebase Powder House on top, or do we do 2 merges
No, what we will probably
or
do
cherry
instead,
pick?
we could either cherry pick onto a powder house branch, but I might just, I don't know what's going to be easier.
What if we only bring this in? Do we just want to bring this into Powder House and not on main? Because
Now I want to fix it on main too, because I will argue broken on main.
I would too, but
So I'm gonna
is
open up
main
two.
gonna take another release?
No, but main's gonna get changes into it.
Got it.
So, um, um, of the confuse. Well, though you make a good point. Hang on, hang on. I know I just said that. Should
It's not really a bug in
what?
main
Hold on. What is the error we're getting? Okay, let's go back.
because the error we're getting is
It's
a
the
debugging error. We're not actually getting a parsing error.
well, but it's an error that's being caused by a two-string call. This
Yes.
could occur not just in the debugger. It showed up because of the debugger, but it could very easily occur if somebody two strings elsewhere, right? Or calls diagram elsewhere, right? The test that we added shows that the diagram call could add more errors. Now, I think it's probably not shown up because most people only use diagram for debugging, so it's not likely to have bitten them. I think that's the kicker. But you make a good point on if we should do this elsewhere. I am curious though. I want to look at the parse result of this guy.
Oh, we're gonna have to port this over to
Oh yeah.
Powder House probably.
Oh yeah. Almost guaranteed. Almost guaranteed.
I
Because
can
that's
help
what I
with
said
that.
is the test like it's going to be nightmarish.
Well, I needed something to do on it, so I could, I could add that into my changing a symbol tree result stuff.
Okay, so this one here.
Michaela doesn't like white space changes, right?
Correct. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's just doesn't like white space changes. I would argue it's because of the decision to try to maintain contributors' contributions and not just wipe everybody's. Because if we do like a
Eventually,
file,
though, we're gonna do white space changes, though, right?
we're going to do a single commit where we like file scope namespace all the things. So there's certain white space changes that are going to occur, like a file scope namespace. But then we were going to do that git trick where it drops that commit from the contributions list. That way,
I
the
don't know
person
this trick.
um it tells git to ignore it for the purpose of history.
Hmm.
It's still in the history, but when it's calculating like blames, it'll skip that commit. That way you don't end up with that problem where the one person does the big refactor and then their name is on everything.
I was talking to someone about this today. They were like, "Why did you do this?" I was like, "I didn't. I was just refactoring. I need to know this trick. This will reduce my blame greatly."
So here's the thing. Here's the thing that's interesting to me, right? This thing is arguing for because this is the one that was existing prior, right? Before we got here.
Yes. No.
When
Well, the test name was the one above it. The arguments were the one below it. It
got
kind
it.
of
Yeah, we may want to. We may want to flip these test names that way because they're using the test names in Powderhouse to figure out what's been fixed or not. But I'm wondering if this is the right error. Unrecognized command or argument. I guess it has to be because the human mind goes, oh, clearly these ones were supposed to be consumed. But it doesn't know that it was supposed to consume them, right? Because if I do this, let me back this up and run this.
Is it a .git -blame -ignore -revs file?
Something like that, yes.
So it's a file that you commit into your repo that contains
Commit hashes.
Well, that's going to be very useful. I have a bad habit of when I come onto a project I haven't been on in a couple of months of
Refactor the universe.
Go clean up everything. 93 files changed in his whole like file scope. It's all dumb little things, but I'm like, this will take me 10 minutes.
So
it'll make me happy for the rest of the time.
We have a problem. So there's a second bug here.
Oh.
This should parse. And it doesn't.
Because it does have 3 arguments.
It does have 3 arguments. And that's what I was wondering about. Because the success case up here only handled this. But this, I think, is expected to work. Let me validate that assumption with John, though. I think that's how it's supposed to work.
What does argument arity have a comment on it that it says like it's a max or is it include? Is it inclusive or exclusive?
Oh, so it is. I don't think it's commented here, but the code that we were looking at when we wrote our error message would imply that it's inclusive. Because the other thing that I know of is like the basic flag ones are 0 or 1. Min 0, max 1. So if we look at CLI option here, right? The default argument here.
Gotcha.
There's a default arity in here somewhere that looks at the type. Create default value. There's somewhere in here that looks at the type and determines the default arity from it. And I believe this is expected to work. So, okay, let's fix this. Copy.
You're going to have to actually change the names because I think multiple argument options actually makes sense for the bottom case, not the top case.
When multiple option arguments are greater.
I went off of a comment on that issue.
You're right.
Oh, a comment on the allow multiple, whatever that flag is, allow multiple options flag. There's an XML comment on that's where I got the notion of multiple from. I'm not sure, but do you know what I'm talking about? The allow multiple, that flag that allows.
Yeah.
What's that flag called?
It's multiple arguments per token.
Yeah, if you go to the XML comment on that, it says is valid for passing multiple arguments and uses that, and that's where I got the word multiple arguments in that specific
I think
case.
this might be the situation. Okay, so let hang on. I want to stop helping me, Copilot.
I don't know if that makes sense, but that's why I would make.
I want to look at the parse result here because I'm wondering if now when I get the error, if I'll only have the one error, that might be the. I just want to confirm that this is. Oh, shut up! Shut up! Okay, parse result. Yeah, so now we're down to the 1. Unrecognized command or argument 4, which is what this thing is asserting on. Because effectively what this test is saying is, I don't care whether you've set this to true or false. I expect this error to be in the collection. Which is what John was saying before when he was arguing that doing an assert single on the error isn't important, because this test doesn't care whether there's a single error. What it's asserting on is that this error does exist, because there could be other things at play. Because sometimes having your test assertions being uber exact is a negative, not a positive. Right?
You'd want a second test that shows
setting that to true clears it. But there probably already is tests around that property that cover those.
I think I've seen them in other places.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet if we hunt the usage of that, we will probably find other tests. Oh, it's probably in the base class. That end up doing that. Let's see. Tests. Yeah.
Yes.
So a whole bunch of them. So
yeah.
So that is not likely an issue. This test is probably good. This test is probably good. Let me check. Stage. Want to double check the parser test again. Okay.
Because technically, what you do? So we are changing it slightly in that diff.
What do you mean?
Because the act is diff. We changed the act for that test name.
Oh, because this name is what this one should have been. Got it. So let's put that back then.
So even though I think we're actually right, or I'm right.
Yeah, but if we're gonna do this on Powder House, we want to have the names.
I'm almost tempted to switch it. I'm almost tempted to make a follow-up where I just go switch this in Powder House, where there's a history of where I switched it.
Yeah, oh, you may want to wait until Powder House merges back, though, is the problem.
Oh, back into main.
So let's see here. Let's see. When option
individual.
When I was thinking the number of option arguments are greater than the maximum arity, then an error is returned. Because this now fixes two issues, right? It fixes the fact that the message, I would argue, is wrong. The text of the message, I would argue, didn't make any sense. And it fixes it for this particular use case. And now this means when we look at our diff, aside from the fact that get's being dumb in the way that it's linking these together, but yes. Actually, I think what we can do, here's dirty trick. Watch this. Because I know something about how get works. And now I can discard this line. Or unstage all files. And then I can discard this line. Now it shows up properly of just a test ad.
That's a clever hack.
Ahaha. Simple reordering. Okay. So the question then becomes, I think we open this on against main, and then we raise the question of should this go exclusively to Powder House or not. There were two problems. Here, I'll move this so my big fat head isn't in the way. Two problems addressed here. First, the call to diagram was causing the second error to be added to the parse result errors collection. The diagram call was invoked by the debugger as part of the parse result.toString method causing the number of errors to change when expecting a parse result. The second issue was the error message text. It was implying the option expected a single value when its arity allowed for more. Okay. I like it. Like nearly 3 hours. I fix a 2-string method.
What people don't know is that in an offline chat yesterday, we said, "Oh, we should fix this thing," and you're like, "Ah, it might be too short. Might
Yeah.
be too quick of
It
a."
might be too quick of a fix. My bad. My bad. I am going to do this carefully. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here only because I want to.
Well, you haven't pushed to.
Oh yeah, so I should probably push this, and I'll send it to my fork. And then I think I want to open this as a draft PR. Let's see. Clean. This PR is currently going against main. Should I assume it also should this, you know what, screw it, I'll send it to her in the private chat. Draft pull request. Okay, I will send this out on the other chat, and we'll see what people want to do, because this may, like I said, we may end up doing things on we may say scratch it, but at least we've identified the problem. We've provided a suggested fix. Booyah!
Crushed it.
Woot woot. Woot woot woot. I will take it. And for anybody who cares, System Command Line is not dead. It is alive and well, and we are trying desperately to get it out of preview and into full release status and all that jazz. So please feel free to check out the feedback on the pinned things for anybody who wants the repo. Enjoying that, I almost understand. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Pikachu. Feel free to drop more questions in. I'm always happy to divert. If you watch any of my old videos, you'll find that I oftentimes will rabbit trail if people have questions or particular topics that they're interested in. So, yeah. Always happy to take questions and do stuff. Benjamin, thank you for coming on. I realize it is incredibly late for you. And
it's been a joy. I've loved it.
It's kind
Thanks
of
for teaching me something.
Well, I mean, I feel like I learned plenty too as well. So
that was fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, as always. Well, thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. And again, once again, thank you to Benjamin. Hopefully we'll dive back into more stuff. There's going to be lots of exciting stuff on the material design and XAML project as well. And then there's still the outstanding request for doing a stream on some of the VeloPack stuff. Lots of progress being made. We're hoping to get to a private beta soon-ish. Probably maybe in the next month, we'll get something there. So may drag my feet a little bit on showing it off, or we may just dive into it next time and we'll see how things go. So with that, I'll tell everyone happy coding. Thanks for hanging out. See y'all next time.